My friends at FanDuel are begging you to take their money on the TCU over and win total.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. TCU baseball, some portal news. One of their better players hit the transfer portal. We'll update you on that. But we start today. We're presented by FanDuel. Thank you to our great friends at FanDuel. They're a fantastic sponsor of the Locked On Network and have been for a long time. They are totally wrong about TCU's over-under win total. Or I guess I should say, they are begging you to take the over. This is basically the third year in a row that I'm doing this show. The win total, by the way, 6.5. That's your over-under for wins for TCU this upcoming season. I'm not surprised by that. But I've done this segment 3 years in a row. I was wrong the first season I did it. I was excited about Chandler Morris. I was excited about this team coming off a national championship appearance. It was 7.5. I thought they would win 8 games for sure. They won 5. Last offseason, 7.5 again. There was some weeping and gnashing of teeth. It was a little different than we thought, but bottom line was they got the job done at the end of the day. I am not surprised they're at 6.5. I don't think most people nationally know what to make of the Big 12 in general. And I certainly know they don't know what to make of TCU. Because the honest truth is, when that team fell to 3-3 with an embarrassing Friday night loss against Houston, which I thought might have been the end of the Sonny Dykes era. It wasn't going to happen that night, but possibly at the end of the season, because I didn't know if they were going to win more than one more game the rest of the year. Thankfully, they turned it around. Gut check time, they got it done, right? Josh Hoover coming back. Basically, your entire defense coming back. Shuffling around your offensive line a little bit, replacing a lot of production wide receiver. But all those things being said, I've told you this all offseason. This is the year TCU's been building towards for the last couple of years. If you look at the Sonny Dykes era and you consider year one is basically a year zero because he inherited a team that was built by Gary Patterson. He did a really nice job making some additions in the portal. His style was so opposed and so different than what Gary was doing. The team responded to it in a big way. They go on that crazy run. Okay. Year one, in a sense, was that Chandler Morris year. That was when you started to see the roster being built in his image. You started to see the traits of a Sonny Dykes team come out. Some of it good, some of it bad. It's been a mixed bag. Last season, the back half of the year, they figured it out. They are going to win more than 6.5 games. They're going to win 7 games. If they don't, barring some big-time injury, I don't think Sonny Dykes is returning next season. That's just the truth of it. Let's look at the schedule. You start with North Carolina. Okay, Bill Belichick, amazing coach. He is. I think this is going to be a good test for TCU early. I feel like some really good things could come from this game. You're going to get exposed, especially your offense. You'll get a good feel for who you're going to be on offense, how other teams are going to attack you. You should win this game. They will win this game. They're 1.5-point dogs right now. That's the wrong line too. And maybe it'll change by the time kickoff comes around. I'm skeptical though, because home field advantage means a lot in college football. But this is not going to Blacksburg. This is not going to Death Valley. All due respect to North Carolina fans, it's not going to their basketball arena. I'm sure that crowd will be more juiced up than normal because of the season opener. It's going to be on national TV, standalone game. They'll probably do all sorts of things to try to get people in the seats because it's Bill's first game. That's not going to be a hostile environment. TCU wins, they're 1-0. They essentially get a bye week, then they go play ACU at home, 2-0. Don't really need to say anything about that. FCS tune-up game, right? SMU the next week. And this is the first like crossroads game of the year. Meaning the result's going to tell you a lot about who this team is and what direction they're going to go. SMU is a good team. I talked a lot of crud about SMU last offseason. I was very wrong. Okay? I'll admit that. They were really good in the ACC in their first year, made the playoff. They found a dude in Kevin Jennings that I think can play. They lost their all world running back. They lost some other skill guys. They're having to rebuild this defense a little bit. You have some background. You have some film on Kevin Jennings now. It's at home. Coin flip game, but I think TCU wins. That puts them at 3-0. And I feel like a big reason why the win total is so low in comparison to what I think it should be is because of this non-conference schedule. Because North Carolina, even though I don't really think UNC is a toss-up game, in my mind, like if TCU is the team that I think they are, they should win that going away. But in the national landscape, I imagine a lot of people look at that and are intrigued by it and think it's going to be a pretty even matchup. And then SMU. And so I feel like most of these prognosticators are saying, well, they'll probably split those two games. And if you do that, if you finish 2-1, well, now you got to go win 5 conference games to get to 7 wins. Okay, that could be a tall task. But I believe they're 3-0 after that non-conference run. Arizona State on a Friday night, 8 o'clock in Tempe. Sam Levitt coming back. They're replacing Cam Scadaboo, but they got a really good running back coming in from Army. That O-line's returning. I would love to hit the hype train button and just get it going. I think Arizona State wins this ball game. And I believe TCU's 3-1 after that one. Colorado at home. October 4th. Well, we know how it played out last time, right? Deion Sanders is replacing his son. He's replacing the best player in college football in Travis Hunter. I think Deion is all in Colorado. I feel like he's going to be there for the long haul. I would not have guessed that when he took the job, but that appears to be the case. This is a rebuilding year for the Buffs. They're still talented. I'm sure they're still good. But this is not the squad that rolled into Fort Worth a few years ago, brimming with confidence, facing a team in TCU that was also figuring out themselves. I think they win that game. They're 4-1. Kansas State. My goodness. Has anyone had TCU's number more than K-State over the last few years? I don't have a great reason for it, but I think this is one of those gut check games that if this team is good, if they're talented, if they're the squad we think they are, they get a victory. You're 5-1. Okay? Avery Johnson, good QB. Had some inconsistency last year, but I think TCU wins that game. I think they beat Baylor at home. Get a little revenge against Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington in that Baylor squad. I feel like Baylor's a tad overrated. I understand why people like them, but I think TCU and Baylor are very similar. So 7 games in, you're 6-1. On the road in West Virginia. Give me the Frogs. Rich Rodriguez returning. Morgantown's a tough place to play. Even that 2014 team, which might have been the best team in TCU's history. Argue in the comments if you want to on YouTube. But it was a last-second field goal to win that ball game. But I think they're just simply more talented than this West Virginia team. Give me the Frogs 7-1. Iowa State at home. They're replacing a lot. 8-1. BYU on the road. Well, this is tricky because Jake Retzlaff, if you didn't know, has been accused in a civil lawsuit of sexual assault. So I don't know if he will be available for BYU in that ball game. But I'm going to, for the time being, since he's on the team, say that he'll be there. I don't know that that's the case. Obviously, BYU is going to, handle that and see how that investigation plays out. But for the time being, I'll say if he's their QB, I think TCU drops that game. And that puts them at 8-2. Houston on the road, get some revenge there. 9-2. Finish the season against Cincinnati at home. I don't know why Cincinnati is becoming the team that TCU closes the season with. I don't love that. But I think the Frogs win that game and they're 10-2. So they're obviously way over the 6.5 win total. I believe 10-2 gets you in the Big 12 championship game. Do they play Texas Tech? Do they get a rematch with BYU? We'll see. But I think 10-2 gets you in the title game. So give me the Frogs to just destroy that over-under that was at 6.5 and finish 10-2. Give me your record predictions in the comments. Let me know if you think it's as crazy as I do that they're sitting there at 6.5 wins over-under by FanDuel and other sports books. When we come back, Carson Bowen leaving TCU. We'll talk about what that means for the baseball program next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. New customers can get up to $200 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet hits. I was telling you about that over-under, 6.5. TCU's 1.5 point underdogs to North Carolina. I like the Frogs there too. You can get those future bets going right now, but you can also bet on the NBA Finals. Pacers, Thunder. How about former Iowa State star Tyrese Halliburton? He has been stepping up in a big way. Same game parlays. All kinds of options there available for you through the NBA Finals. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. So on Monday's show, I broke down the disaster that happened in Corvallis. TCU goes up to the Pacific Northwest. They thought they should be hosting. And I was hopeful that they would channel that energy into a really good performance in the regional. But they get destroyed by USC 13-1. Tommy Laporte didn't have it. I personally thought it was a little too amped. That fastball was all over the place. His breaking ball was sitting in the middle of the zone. So they lose that game 13-1. You come back, you play Oregon State the next day. Didn't expect to see Oregon State in the losers bracket, but they fall to St. Mary's. Oregon State ends up working their way all the way through that losers bracket and winning that regional that they hosted. And that started with a victory over TCU 7-2. And in both games, it was never really close. Sawyer Stroh-Snyder hit a home run in the USC game to, I believe, make the score 4-1. Isaac Cadena had a home run in the Oregon State game to make it 7-2. That is as close as they came to making it a ball game. Now, in the Oregon State game, they did have runners on first and second with nobody out in the 7th inning, just couldn't get anybody across. Strikeout, double play ball, inning was over. But a rough effort all the way around. And so now you're in the offseason. That means you got roster shuffling going on. I don't think any changes are happening to this coaching staff. Bill Mosiello is going to come back for a year or two. Kirk Sarlos is obviously the guy. We'll see if he makes any changes with some of the other assistants. But my guess is they stay pat and stay with what they got right now. However, we expect to see some additions to this roster. They've got a good core coming back. Now, they did lose a player yesterday. That was a little surprising to me. It's Carson Bowen, who through his TCU career has been really solid. Now, he had a rough sophomore season, but 308 with 16 home runs and 112 RBIs through his career. Led the team in on-base percentage this season. Hit leadoff for most of the year. Now, what is this about? Is he getting poached by another school? No, I don't think that's the case. Carson came here and started as a catcher. And he was a starting catcher on that team that went to Omaha pretty much the entire season. A catcher whose name I'm blanking on right now got hurt like at the beginning of the year, and Carson had to take over and basically be the full-time dude all season long, and did that well. He dealt with some injuries before his sophomore season. His sophomore year was rough, especially at the plate, but he battled through it. He worked his way back, and then he had a bounce back junior year, but he spent most of the year at first base because Nolan Traeger was behind the dish. And Nolan Traeger is a freshman. He played well. There's not a reason to move him. So Carson was sort of in position limbo, right? I mean, he played a decent first base, and I think he would have gotten better. Like, for essentially 1 year at the position, he did a very nice job. He would have improved over the next couple of years. But that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be behind the plate, understandably. He's done that at a high level before in his career. So he's going elsewhere to find a spot where he can play, right? So you need a first baseman now. And I think they'll most likely look in the portal to fill that spot. That's the one big move. Now, how big of a loss is that? I mean, it's a loss. Carson's a good player. He seemed to be, I mean, the intangibles were high with him. Toughness, played through injuries, worked really hard, was one of those dudes you expected to see in the lineup every single day, and did some really nice things for this team. Was a key part of that Omaha squad. Him and Anthony Silva were the freshman studs. They were the Sawyer Stroh-Snyder and Noah Franco of that team that we thought were going to be the dudes moving forward. And both of them have had their struggles for different reasons. But I think Carson's going to go be a good player for somebody. So this is a loss, but I think it's somebody that you can replace the production of. Now, you know, off the field, from a leadership standpoint, a locker room standpoint, that might be the harder thing to replace with Carson, because it just seemed like one of those glue guys that you really needed on your roster. Regardless, he's moving on. Everybody else that's moved on so far, Jax Traeger, pitcher who's just hasn't really seen many opportunities since he got on campus. Blake Rogers, transfer from Baylor, who's dealt with injuries, same thing. Didn't see a lot of opportunities. Mason Bixby today, I mean, the stuff was phenomenal. Can throw 97, 98. Has velo that really nobody else on the team has. Now, Tommy Lepore, when he gets going, he can ride it up there, but just don't know where the ball's going. I mean, the Corvallis Regional was the perfect example. I think walked 3 in a row, hit a batter. It was always an adventure. And Kirk tried to find roles for him. I mean, ideally, he would be a back into the bullpen guy. He never really was consistent enough to be trusted in those high leverage situations. They gave him a shot to be like an opener a few times, which made sense. Can you get through the lineup one time with a dude that's throwing at that speed and with that type of stuff and just fool those guys and not allow them to time it up, and then you move on to somebody else? But again, the control issues, it held him back. So he's looking for a fresh start. Understandable. This feels like a big year for TCU baseball. I mean, you can make the excuse or give the reasoning of, well, you know, they ran out of steam late in the year. They're a young team, didn't have a lot of postseason experience. It didn't go the way they wanted to. Okay, well, that's something you can talk about for one season. But you got to get these guys in a place where they're executing at a high level in May and June. JD Andrus from Sports Illustrated is reporting that Noah Franco is back. So that's great news. Noah Franco, Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, I mean, those are the guys that you have to build this team around. Chase Brunson was really good. I think from a pitching standpoint, Tommy Lepore being possibly your Friday night starter again is great news. Ben Abelt, we'll see what he decides to do. And then, I mean, if you get Ben back, that's massive, because your numbers weren't bad on the pitching staff. Like, ERA-wise, you did a pretty nice job. But you never had, I mean, Mason Brassfield, Trevor Baumler, I think they can still be guys that are counted on for this team, but they weren't super consistent this year. And you just didn't know week to week who you could count on, who you could trust. So you have to have more depth in your pitching staff. You also just need, I mean, you need more depth in your lineup too. Like, this felt like a team that once you got past 2 through 5, if you could make good pitches, you were going to have a pretty good night. And that's not going to work. But Bill Mosiello, I mean, he came back. He was coming off the stint at Ohio State where he was the head coach. He kind of got thrown back into it. So I think there is something to be said about him having a full offseason to sort of stabilize himself, get his bearings again, and start recruiting the guys that he really wants to be a part of this offense moving forward. But the big news, Carson Bowen moving on. Good luck to him, man. It was fun to watch his career here. He's a good player. I wish they could have held on to him, but I think this is one of those, like, this is really what the transfer portal should be for. A guy who put his head down, worked really hard. He looks up, he just discovers, you know what, I'm not in a good spot for what I want to do. But he finished out the season strong, and then when it's over, he's moving on. when we come back. TCU football, big year coming up. TCU baseball flaming out in the postseason. That's coming up next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Okay, don't forget programming note, a couple things. One, we got the Portal podcast, which Brian Smith hosts, does a great job. He's our recruiting guru here at the Locked On Network, both at the high school level and in the transfer portal. So if you want to know more about what's happening across the landscape of college football when it comes to that, check out the Portal podcast. Also, if you're wondering why there was no Tuesday episode, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the month of June. We are in off-season mode as a network in the college channel here during June. We'll pick up with daily shows through July. So we'll be back on Friday, and I'll have an episode up for you again then. On Monday's show, I talked a lot about the baseball team because the season was just finishing up. And RC Dowdy says, have we defeated Arizona for the Big 12 championship? Maybe the outcome's different if they hosted in the first round. It was gratifying to see the Big 12 perform well, and I particularly appreciated seeing Texas eliminated in the first round. Yeah, it is worth noting it was a crazy weekend across the regionals, right? Like Texas gets bounced. LSU gets taken to the wire by Arkansas Little Rock. They do hold on, though, and advance to the Supers. Murray State takes down Ole Miss in their home stadium. Big 12-wise, though, West Virginia moving on to the Super Regionals. Good for them. Arizona moving on to the Super Regionals as well. So hopefully those schools represent the Big 12 well. I was skeptical of West Virginia all year long, but they really went through that regional and did a great job. Yeah, if they beat Arizona for a Big 12 championship, I do think it's possible that this result's different. I will say, I don't know if that would have made them a lock to host. Like, I hope that would be the case. But, I mean, West Virginia didn't host, Arizona didn't host, and Arizona actually finished. I mean, Arizona did not host. They won a series against TCU. They finished with a better record in the regular season, I believe. Maybe they finished fourth. Anyway, I guess they did finish fourth. TCU finished third. But you see my point. Like, the resumes were pretty even. So I don't know if that means that TCU would have hosted, but maybe they get a better draw. If they did host, then yeah, I think they at least win, that 1-4 game, even with all the craziness surrounding college baseball. But the bottom line was the disappointing thing to me, like, losing in a regional is not necessarily something to hang your head about. Now, I think TCU is at a place as a program where they should expect more than that on a yearly basis. But if you go up to Corvallis and you make the regional final and you just bow out to a good Oregon State team on their home field, I can live with that. I wouldn't be happy with it. I'd still be disappointed. We'd still get on the podcast and talk about things that they need to work on. But I would understand, like, okay, that's what happened, right? And so some people were comparing this effort to their effort a couple of years back against A&M in the College Station Regional, and they couldn't be more different. I mean, they lost that opening game, which was a bummer, to Louisiana, but then they beat Oral Roberts, they beat Louisiana, and they got to the regional final, and they equipped themselves really well against Texas A&M in that elimination game. They just ran out of arms, and they ended up falling. This was from the jump. I mean, there was never a moment in those two games where you felt good about TCU's chances. Now, that's a problem, especially I like my teams to have a chip on their shoulder. I want them to be upset when they feel like they got snubbed. I felt like they got snubbed. But then to not go show it when you have a chance to go play at a high level in a postseason game, well, that's really disappointing. But that'll be the last time I talk about it until the next time I talk about it, right? We're getting closer, though, to football season, which is fun to see. And I want to talk Friday. I'll give you the prompt now so you can mull it over. I know TCU has some national championship meet qualifiers in track and field, but for all intents and purposes, the sports year's over for the Frogs. You got a national championship in beach volleyball. Men's tennis goes to the national championship match. The women make the Elite Eight. Football makes the bowl game. Men's basketball misses out on the NCAA tournament this year. Baseball makes a regional. Women's soccer makes the postseason. Volleyball makes postseason. I'm missing some, but you get my point. Do you consider this athletic season a success for TCU? Yes or no? I'll give you some time to think about it. You can hit me up here in the YouTube comments. You can also hit me up on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, social media site. We'll be back Friday. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. We're approaching 1,500 subscribers, which would be really cool to see. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'll see you Friday. Have a good week, everybody.